tell me where in the world is
crime in San Diego?
Welcome back to another episode of Where in the World is Crime in San Diego?
Welcome back. Happy Monday, everybody. We just want to start off by saying thank you so much to everyone for all the support yesterday for our 1-year event. Thank you to Lunar Lotus Retreats for all the hard work. And thank you guys for every listen, every download, every share, every like. It might not seem like a lot, but we can't say this enough. It goes such a long way for us. So thank you for 364 days of amazing memories. Tomorrow is our actual full 365.
Yes.
But thank you guys so much for being on this journey with us and for sticking around as we continue to grow.
I got nothing else to say. You took the words right out of my mouth. So thank you so much to everyone that supported us. Thank you so much. With that being said, it is a new episode.
And a new case.
A new case. Thank you so much. If you guys listened to last week, Match Made in CODIS, where we discussed Julia Hernandez Santiago and her unfortunate death in Carlsbad. And then CODIS came in for the save. So James Kingery, he is facing 25 years to life in prison for the murder. So anyways, now we're leading into a new episode. And this one fell upon me through an old Escondido Facebook page that I used to live in Escondido, and it came across. I was like, oh wow, like this happened not too long ago, and I thought it was very interesting. So
it's one of those where you start to read one headline and you're like, oh, and then you start digging and there's more and more and more.
Yes, and did we dig up stuff on this one? Like it is crazy. This week's episode is called DUI. Don't you inhale.
All right. And the sources for this week are NBC 7, Telemundo, Fox 5, ABC 10, San Diego Union Tribune, San Diego Reader, EscondidoAdvocate.com, Times of San Diego, and Facebook. And the disclaimers for this week are DUI, murder, alcohol, and drug abuse. I am going to give a forewarning that there is children involved in this one, unfortunately. So just keep that in mind as you go forward. I know these are really hard, but they're also really important to drive the point that this is not okay. So let's get started.
So let's introduce to you guys Ashley Renee Williams. It is 2020, and Ashley, she is 28 years old. Fairly young adult, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is 6 p.m., May 5th, which is Cinco de Mayo, 2020.
Drinko de Mayo.
Drinko de Mayo, Drinko Cinco, whatever you guys want to call it. I don't celebrate it. But most people are quarantining because it is 2020, so COVID's happening. You're most likely having your margaritas at home. You're celebrating your Taco Tuesday.
Oh, yeah. This is the height. We're like 2-3 months in.
We're like 3 weeks, or we're like 5 weeks into COVID.
Into our 2-week period. Yeah.
Okay. We got that whole deal. So Ashley is putting in a mobile order for a cannabis. So one of those dispensaries. She's putting an order in through her phone at work. And she's specifically, asking it to be delivered at her Escondido residences. And she specifically requested that her order to arrive at her doorstep exactly 9 p.m.
That's oddly specific, but okay.
Yeah. I mean, people have their habits, people have their rituals or, their routine, right? So she's like, I want it there and I want it at that time. Okay. She does not get a confirmation code. She doesn't get a message or anything like that. So she starts to panic. It's 8 o'clock. And she calls the dispensary and nobody answers. She texts the dispensary and then she gets through saying, hey, okay, her order to be delivered. It is 8:11. So 10 minutes later, right? And she texts her mom. She's like, hey, leave my weed jar at the doorstep. I will be there to stop by and pick it up. Another 10 minutes go by, and then Williams is driving her silver 2014 Mazda 3. She is scrolling through on YouTube and driving at the same time, trying to find that perfect song. And she scrolls onto Biggie Smalls' The World Is Filled. And this is after changing her mind many times before. 6 minutes later, it is 8:27 p.m. And I didn't know this, but her Mazda made an emergency phone call because her car had come to an abrupt stop. So her car made a connecting 911 call through her phone. And when her phone connected, it had a 10-second countdown.
Oh, it's one of those safety features on cars where, like, if you get in an accident, they'll call for it. Now iPhones have them too, I think. But yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like OnStar. Chevy has OnStar. It's something similar to that.
Okay.
So it has a 10-second countdown, and then it connects you to an emergency dispatcher. The call is recorded, thankfully, and you can hear the song "The World Is Filled" playing loudly in the background. All the while, Ashley is heard saying, "I'm sorry, let me pull over. I don't know what happened." While all this is going on, the dispatcher is trying to get a hold of Ashley's attention, but she does not she does not respond back to the dispatcher. There is a man on a motorcycle at the intersection of San Pasqual and near Oak Hill Drive. And this is where the motorcyclist is trying to make a left turn and sees the silver Mazda drive by at a high speed.
Like zoom past him.
Just zooms right past them.
Yeah.
Not too long after, the motorcyclist sees and hears that the Mazda had crashed. There's like a dust cloud, like smoke, something, and there's like a loud boom. So the motorcyclist gets off of his bike, runs over to the crash. He is able to see a woman in the driver's seat frantically searching for something. And it happens to be Ashley looking for her phone. She's saying that, "I need to call my mom. I need to call my mom." When she finds her phone, the motorcyclist takes the phone from her hand and he tells her to sit down on the curb because the motorcyclist fears that she might intend on leaving the scene.
She's a flight risk.
Exactly what it's a good call from the motorcyclist to do. So she's on the curb. Police arrive at the scene. It is now 8:30, and this is where Officer Lockers arrives at the scene. When he arrives at the scene, he sees that there's 3 bodies, and behind the Mazda is Ashley sitting on the curb. He then sees Ashley, screaming to call her mom. And she's screaming. At one point she screams that she needs to call her mom because her mom is taking care of her child. It's just really weird. I'm sure it's very chaotic kind of scene. Like,
yeah, but it's something that stuck out to them.
It's a lot of stuff that's happening, but that's one of the things that the officer noted. Detective Nelson arrives at the scene, and he notes that the conditions of the road were clean and dry, meaning that there was no rain, there was, no hazards present on the road.
Well, yeah, anytime you get a ticket or get in a car accident, their first concern, it was like, okay, in order to deem it an accident, was there something that's caused you to do that? Like the weather or the road conditions, X, Y, and Z.
So get this. The Mazda. Mm-hmm. There was a 6-foot tree that was uprooted, sticking out from the front end of the car. What I mean by that is that you have the tree that's over at least, 6 to 8, 10 feet tall, and you have the roots that came out of the ground that were sticking out in front of the car.
So the tree was like on its side?
The tree was embedded. It was all impaled into the car with the roots sticking out from the ground.
So it actually lifted the tree out from the ground.
Imagine it, and just imagine taking the whole tree, the branches, the stump, the trunk with you, and the roots. That's how the tree came out.
I can't even imagine how fast you have to be going for that to be possible.
But get this. There was also clumps of black hair on the windshield. Blood was found on the surface on the exterior of the car. There was 4 different pairs of shoes scattered around the scene. And this is where it becomes heartbreaking. Because at the scene, 2 were pronounced dead, and the other 2 were transported to the hospital, but later had passed away due to blunt force trauma.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect them to survive that. And if they had, they would have been in so much pain afterwards.
Oh, it's insane. So through investigating, Ashley Williams' car had ran onto the sidewalk, had struck in 4 pedestrians, ran through an intersection, jumped back onto the sidewalk, hit the tree, and when it hit the tree, that is when the emergency call had been notified, it was triggered. When Williams' car first hit the pedestrians, it was not enough force to have made the emergency call go through.
How do you go onto a sidewalk, hit 4 human beings, and your car still doesn't think that's enough to...
I don't know. It's really strange because you figure that if you hit 4 people, that it should be enough of a force.
That's faulty technology if you don't detect all that.
So yeah, it wasn't until after slamming into the tree is when those emergency response were triggered.
So if she hadn't hit the tree, then she might have got away with hitting them, still driving home, and not ever stopping to know who she was.
As scary as it is, that is correct.
That is infuriating and scary at the same time.
I totally agree. It's nuts.
So from this point, a woman named Norma Espinoza arrives at the scene. She tells officers that her family had gone out for an evening walk in that neighborhood and had not returned. And she was worried and she was following their usual route to try to find them. As she looks on the street, she notices the shoes, as everyone did. And she can tell you exactly what shoes belong to what person, which means she has actually identified them. But who exactly were they? This is where my heart aches, guys. So, one was Norma's mother, Carmela Camacho, who was 50 years old. Her boyfriend, Abel Juan Valdez, 33. Her grandson, Emmanuel Rivas, 11 years old, which was Norma's son, along with his little brother, Yovanny Felix, who was 10 years old. So Valdez and the oldest son, Emmanuel, were the ones that passed away at the site. And then Carmela and Yovanny passed away in the hospital. So we can only hope that they didn't suffer a lot towards the end. That part breaks my heart.
It's heartbreaking that it's one entire family taken out in one action.
All the details get worse.
Yeah.
We're not going to get too much more into graphics than what we already covered because I just can't handle it. And I don't think you guys can either. So they were actually on their evening walk together. As we mentioned, it was the beginning of COVID. It was at the height of it. You didn't know if the air you breathed had COVID. You didn't know if the groceries you bought had COVID. I mean, you couldn't make a move at this point. So she was trying to find a way to get the kids out of the house since they were only doing homeschooling. They're in front of a TV all day. They're in front of the computer. They're sitting. So she, being an awesome grandma, decided we're going to do evening walks, the 4 of us. We're going to go around the neighborhood and get some exercise in and at least get moving, which is awesome. You need fresh air. You needed to get out. What is gut-wrenching is that they were less than a minute away from their house, if that.
Yeah.
And the fact that Norma was able to walk out her front door, down the street, and make it there only shows how close it was for her to be like, I'm just going to lap around and see what their normal route was.
Yeah, it's very scary. You know, you're so close to home and you have something like this just completely unexpected. It's just terrible news.
Well, due to the damage, Williams was taken to the hospital in an ambulance. And the first thing they did, of course, is take her blood sample. They also did the toxicology report, which came back and declared that she had tested positive for 3 different substances. So marijuana, methamphetamine, and
difluorothane.
Difluorothane, or known as DFE. Yeah. It's a long, complicated word.
It is.
So for those of you like me that don't even know how to pronounce it, let alone what it is, difluorothane is a chemical or gas, you can say, that's found in aerosol cans. And it's towards the top, and you can either inhale it or like huff it, or you can put it into a bag and then inhale what's in the bag. And the whole purpose of it is just to get you like lightheaded, dizzy, kind of give you like an effect, like a quick high, if you will. Yeah,
it's like an euphoria, like just like essentially you can pass out from it, and it wears off. It happens in seconds, and it wears off in minutes.
Yeah, but it's pretty quick. It's like it's almost like when you're inhaling, what is it, the helium in balloons?
Yes.
Where like it's a quick effect, and like unless you keep doing it over and over, it's not going to stick.
Mm-hmm.
So it's placed in the blood, and it can cause you to lose consciousness or pass out after repeated use. Because of the way that it was found in her blood, it's most probable or only makes sense that she was huffing as she was driving. Which, I mean, you're trying to pick a YouTube song, you're trying to huff, and you're driving, like...
I mean, that's already a dangerous combination as it is. Like, let alone trying to scroll and drive at the same time on your phone is very
I'm trying
dangerous.
To scroll and record, and I'm having a hard time.
Yeah.
So... the event data recorder on the Mazda, because let's remember it's 2014 and car memories and computers retain so much more now.
Yes.
It recorded that she never took her gas off the pedal, which means that her car was traveling on that road for about 48 to 52 miles per hour. That's really fast if you're going through a residential area or like even a street, like speed limit's usually what, 25?
So I'm very familiar with that area, and like there's a school right there on San Pascual Road. There's the school not too right there, like the high school's off that road, and yeah, it's if anything you're looking at 35, 45 miles tops for the speed there, and it's a very dangerous street.
Does it have like a lot of curves and stuff or no?
It's not very well lit.
Let's remember it's at 8 p.m.
Yeah.
in the middle of May. So, I mean, sun had already gone down.
Mm-hmm. It's not light out at 8:30 on May 5th.
So at this point she never took her foot off the gas, and she had her foot resting on the brake, but not to the point where she was actually pressing it. So even if it doesn't do anything.
Yeah. You're just
especially if your foot's on the gas.
Yeah.
So here's the problem that everyone in San Diego had is that even though we knew who caused this, how they caused it, when they caused it, and who they hurt, it still took an entire month for her to get officially arrested.
Which to me, this is the biggest question for me.
And I do want to grant that this was a lot of public pressure where it was constantly in the news as to like, why hasn't she been arrested? Why hasn't she been arrested? Like, the vigils were going on in Escondido. Mm-hmm. I do remember at this time, like everyone knew who it was, and yet there was nothing being done. There was this fear of like her being let go like scot-free.
So, I mean, from my group page that I followed, from what I understood is that she had connections with family members, like in the police department, in the city council. So I don't want to be.
I was going to mention that was a
quoted,
rumor as to why.
But that is a rumor that I heard that I was seeing and reading, but I cannot confirm that she had these connections, and that's like part of the reason why it took so long.
So the official police response for Escondido PD was that they needed to collect all the evidence and complete the investigation before making an arrest, which sounds like political talk, but okay.
Yeah, right.
But at last, she was arrested and put into Las Colinas, which is the only female jail in San Diego County.
Which I had to look it up. And that's actually in Santee.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa.
But all women go to the same place. There's a lot of male prisons all over San Diego, but there's only one for women. So that ought to tell you what our crime rate looks like. So August 21st, Ashley had her pre-trial hearing. She was charged with a total of 9 felonies. 4 counts of second-degree murder, plus 4 counts of gross vehicular manslaughter while intoxicated, plus 1 count of driving under the influence causing death. By this point, she was 29 years old. I'm not sure why the last one is only 1 count of driving under the influence causing death if there was 4 people. But I mean, it was still 9 counts.
Yes. It is
so
strange.
It's not like she's going anywhere anytime soon. Williams did have supporters in the courtroom who blew her kisses and made sure to show their unwavering support. But I do have to note that she was not a mother. She did not have a child. So that means that she was using that as an excuse to be able to call her mom. Mm-hmm. And we'll come back to this point a little bit later. But the victims did have family present as well, so they were represented. During the break, I mean, you can imagine the tension in that courtroom. During courts like this or hearings like this, the victims and the, I guess, defendants, if you will, they're not supposed to talk to each other. Like, it's supposed to be like, hey, everybody look your own way. Don't say anything. In the courtroom, that's definitely a no-no. On the outside, it's just more of like a, hey, you won't be allowed back in if you can't keep it together. Mm-hmm. But while there was no sheriff or deputies around, they did start to exchange some words and things got a little heated. And then officers came over and it got squashed. So it's not known what was said, but at some point there was an interaction.
I mean, it's so dangerous because it's like you're in.
But how do you control your emotions? You're so angry.
It's so, if I was in that position, like, and if I was the victim's family and I see the suspect's family, I can't help but like just have like this face or like this like anger, this hate, this
devil's advocate though. If it was your family member that made a mistake, like you don't want to leave them to hang out to dry, so you're still trying to like love them through anything. I mean, it just sucks on both ends. But
it really does.
I do agree. I would feel more anger and really hard to control. So the prosecutor informs the courtroom that 1, Ashley's driver's license had been suspended months before the accident after a misdemeanor conviction for DUI in February 27 of 2020. Yes. That is only 2 months before this accident happened. And that incident was involving drugs. The prosecutor also shared that during that time of the conviction, she went through the court transcripts and it showed that Williams had been informed that in the future, if someone had died as a result of her driving while she was intoxicated, she would be charged with murder, which answers that last count of 1 count for
murder
driving. Yeah. So that one was added on because of her prior case. Like that was her warning.
So I didn't know that was a thing. That if you have if you're convicted for a DUI and you make another DUI not too long after, and that person dies in an accident, that you're charged for murder. Like, I had no idea that was a thing here.
Well, yeah, you killed them.
But it's just like...
It's a different count because it's you driving and you're choosing to do this after you were already warned not to. With someone else, if it had been a first-time incident, then that count wouldn't have been added.
Because then it probably would have been vehicular manslaughter.
Yeah, but you didn't plan to do it because you didn't know that was a possibility. You've already been taught that this can happen and you still choose to do it. So... She also liked to show on her social media, as we all do, show off the best things.
Yep.
Well, she figured that this included her rolling joints and smoking weed, tagging videos 420 and getting lit. I know we're in 2023. If you're home, do what you want, do what you like, but don't do that and then go get behind the wheel of a car and continue to just be smart about it. So her defense team, which is always my favorite part to hear how they defend these things, says that it was an accident due to non-attentive driving. So he wants to focus on the fact that she was scrolling through YouTube, not the fact that she was huffing or...
and impaired driving.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or the weed in her system, or the blood in her system, like none of that.
The methamphetamine,
yeah.
The DFE.
He also goes to show the timestamp of when she tried to change the song. So he's really pushing this narrative of like YouTube caused her to trash. Again, I just don't understand. Yeah. They go to law school for this, by the way. The judge was not convinced that Williams was distracted due to YouTube or the social media scrolling. So she did make her stand for trial. On June 30th of 2022, she pled guilty to the murder charges, and she was sentenced to 25 years in prison. or 25 to life.
Yeah.
She didn't make a statement, but the family did. Norma Espinoza came forward to say, I think one day I might forgive her, but I don't think I'm ready to do that now. It still hurts. My sons were my everything. They were my life. She describes her mother as her best friend who she could go to for guidance in any problems in her life. Elvia Valdez, who is Abel Valdez's sister, she is only Spanish speaking, so she used an interpreter, but she did say that her brother was a respectful and humble man, and that nothing can fill the emptiness that Abel has left behind. She says that their mother in particular is the one who's torn apart by her son's death, which I can't imagine. I mean, we said it a million times, but parents are never meant to bury your kids, no matter what age.
That's exactly what I was about to say, that any parent should be buried by their kids, not the other way around, where the parent buries their child.
Well, here's another full circle moment. Brandy Moran Krebs, who served as both Emmanuel's teacher and Ashley Williams' teacher decades ago, said that as sad as she feels for the decisions that Ashley made, justice has to be served. The odds of them having the same teacher at any point in their life, and like that same teacher watching one of them grow up, go through the system, and then like coming into the classroom and you're missing this little boy sitting in his seat, and the person to blame is someone that you helped teach along the way. That's just shocking to me.
To me, it is too. It's like, what are the odds? What are the chances?
One thing that stood out to me is that when she was looking for her phone, she wanted to call her mom because of her child. But then when she didn't get the confirmation for her order, she was so frantic that not only did she call the dispensary to make sure the order went through, but then she called her mom to make sure she was ready to receive it. I can't help but think that she was more worried about getting her hands on her weed than about the consequences of her actions.
Oh, yes. I agree.
I don't know if she even registered what she had done at that point in time.
I don't think so. She had no idea. She was completely oblivious to what she had
just done. That angers me so much more, though. Like the cluelessness, the lack of accountability, like putting the family through trial when she could have just pled guilty from the beginning and saved them from having to go through all that evidence and reliving that tragic event.
Yeah, and it's just crazy because, like, you know, the things that stick out in my mind are it took them a month to officially arrest her, right? Mm-hmm. And then what happened in those 30 days from when the accident happened on the 5th to June 4th when she got arrested? Like, she was home. Like, I mean, it is.
But in any other, she could have done that to someone else. You're giving her more time to commit the same crime or something worse. I didn't even consider that part.
And it's just wild. It's heartbreaking because then you have Norma, who had to bury 3 family members, and then also her mom's boyfriend, stepfather, whatever the relationship status was.
Yeah.
And it's just like you have 4 family members to bury. It's so heartbreaking.
Well, she broke apart so many families by that one action. Mm-hmm. It's scary, but it's also at the same time, the amount of people that get arrested on the scene and then either get out and like innocent until proven guilty, fine, but they still get taken into custody. Mm-hmm. So what was the exception with her where like if they saw in her blood that she had all these things, the roads were dry, there's no real reason why they should have waited to let her go home.
No, she should have. She
should have been arrested on the accident
that very same night. She should have.
Even if it's for destruction of property, like any DUI, whether you damage something or not, you still get arrested.
Yeah.
At least your 24-hour sober up period, and then you get let go.
Exactly.
And that's with like no damage, no harm, no foul. You just happen to get pulled over in.
Oh yeah, like drunk in public. Drunk in public, you go to the drunk tank, you're out in 12 hours.
But you still get arrested. You still get booked. You still go through a process.
Exactly. And she didn't.
So the fact that she got released from the hospital, sent home, I can see why people were angry. I don't think we could call this justice because nothing would make this justice. I feel, especially at that point in time where we were under curfew and your goal was to go to work, go home, and that's it. Mm-hmm. And she had to have been an essential worker if she was still working at that time because not everybody was.
Yeah.
I just feel like in today's world, there is zero excuse for drinking and driving. There's Uber, there's public transportation, there's certain numbers and services you can call Downtown has pedicabs that will pick you up and shuttle you for free if you're in that area or as long as you call that number. Like, this one for me just hits hard. Drunk driving, there's never an excuse for it.
Impaired driving, I mean, yeah, is exactly no excuse for it. Like, they have those delivery services now for everything.
Those poor kids deserve to be here today to continue living their lives. Carmela deserves to be living her best life. Juan deserves to be living his best life. And it's just, there's no justification for it. It's just not okay.
Yeah. So may they rest in peace. And I hope the family is able to be able to comfort and come together stronger than before and move forward. So now we've reached the end of our episode and we have our SBS of the week.
Small Business Spotlight.
Now, on Saturday over the weekend, we found out of an event over at Black Plague, and they were hosting. Basically, it's almost spooky season. It is spooky season year round at Black Plague.
They do like Christmas in July, but this was Halloween in July.
Yeah, so it's August.
August, my bad.
I know.
I don't know.
But anyways, so they had this event where they had some vendors, some local artists, and people come over at the brewery. And we have a friend that we know, 7 Octobers, and they announced that they were going to be there. We're like, hey, you know what? Like, let's go check you guys out. We'll be there to support you. And like, hey, like, let's introduce ourselves to 7 Octobers. And oh my gosh, it was amazing to meet 7 Octobers. And
it's so cool when you take your online friendships and you meet them in person.
Yeah, like this whole networking stuff.
Yes,
like
it's amazing.
It's amazing. But we got to meet 7 Octobers and her sister. It was just amazing because we're like, okay, I at first I thought it was just one thing, but no, like we're gonna feature a couple stuff here from them.
Yes, so they are. Well, we're supporting 2 for 1. So one is 7 Octobers, and she's an artist, filmmaker, podcaster, and then her sister, who has an Instagram called Butterfly Dreams, and she is an artist with poetry.
Yes.
So sister duos are my favorite. Yeah. I have a sister, and it just kind of speaks to me. But they have a podcast together called The Heartful Truth, and they get really in-depth conversations going with a variety of different guests. So conversations that are hard to have, they're getting into those topics, the important stuff. So definitely go check out an episode, give them a listen. And 7 Octobers also hosts her own podcast, The Nightmares on Sedgwick Avenue. And that one, if you're into spooky season all year round and you love all the horror and the scary stuff, like this is for you. So she covers everything from local artists, music, movies, I mean, anything and everything. She often has guests that are local. She'll go to music festivals. She'll go to film festivals, like everything SD based. She's all over the county. So definitely go and support, check her out. She does go to different events like today's all over the county to sell and share her art. So if you're interested, follow her Instagram. That way you can keep up with where she's at and definitely go support. Honestly, she is so talented. We did buy one painting for her, which we'll show in a picture. It is this awesome Spider-Man / Venom. And it just, we got it for my nephew because we had to, but it is so good. It's just, she's so talented.
Yeah, like I saw it. We introduced ourselves, and I was like, that was the first thing I saw. Like there was also like, I saw Mike Myers.
Oh, we're gonna insert a video that she had
Chucky.
A little bit of everything.
I mean, yeah. I saw Hellboy. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff on there. Also, they had a
luchador, which I thought was really cool. Oh, yeah, again, Santo. They're Latinas, so
yeah. They had what's it called? I like the movie Watchmen, and they had Dr. Manhattan, which Dr. Manhattan is a male figure. Yeah, you have no idea, but my Comic-Con people, they're still with me. I'm eye to eye with them right now. But they turned, instead of a male Manhattan, it was a female. Like she had hair, she had the symbol in the head. It was just really cool. It was a really cool picture and everything. That's all I had to say. Long story short.
Very creative, awesome work. These girls wear their heart on their sleeve and you can see it. So yeah, go check them out. Go support. Give a listen to their podcast. If you do, let us know what you think. Let them know we sent you over.
Exactly.
And yeah, make sure to tune in every Monday for our next episode of Where in the World is Crime in San Diego? Till then, catch us on the next case.
And in case we don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Tell me where in the world is
Crime in San Diego.